Welcome to week 8 of our exam prep series. This week, we're going over verbal operants, as well as key terms that you might see in the exam to help you dissect the test questions. Not only do you need to understand the difference between the verbal operants based on controlling variables, but you need to be able to identify formal similarity and point-to-point correspondence. A common exam mistake is focusing on topography instead of function. Always ask yourself, what controls this verbal behavior? Look for the antecedent, not just what the person says. Exam questions will focus on the function, not the form, so don't be fooled by what the response looks like. First up, mand. For manding, it's the most important and the first elementary verbal operant that any human does. Verbal behavior is controlled by the motivating operation. So last week we talked about MOs and the importance of understanding motivation. In order for something to be a mand, it must match the motivation. Look for things like wants, need, hungry, thirsty, desires, tired. It benefits the speaker, and also time of day involves like bedtime, being sleepy, those type of things can also be hints. Deprivation states might be mentioned as well, establishing operations, MOs. Examples of mands: child says cookie when hungry, points to water when thirsty and wants that, ask for a teddy bear. Even manding for information or requesting, what is your name? What's your favorite color? To start conversations. If it's talking about the question that's being asked and the want for information, that's the mand. So make sure in the question scenario, you don't jump to something like intraverbal just because it's a question dialogue. Make sure you're looking at, is the question asking for the speaker or the listener? And make sure you're looking at which part of the question it's asking. Common mand distractors are the form, saying cookie versus tact. So making sure that it's not just the scenario points at a cat and says cat versus reaching for the cat and getting the toy cat that way. Leading into tact, verbal behavior controlled by nonverbal SD or a nonverbal stimuli. So labeling things around you. Look for sees, hears, smell, touches, anything that interacts with the sense mode. So it's not just sight, it's also feelings or states. So I feel hungry, I feel sad, I hear this, I smell this. There has to be something interactive in the environment. Ask yourself, do I need something in the environment present to answer this question? So if I ask you, tell me something in front of you, you have to look in front of you to see it versus tell me what you ate for breakfast. That's a recalling information. You don't have to see it right now to answer it. So recalling information is intraverbal, which we'll talk about in a moment. Tact is controlling by what you sense. Mand is controlled by what you want and need. Next, echoic, as it sounds, echoing language. It has formal similarity, meaning it has the same form with the controlling stimulus. Say ba, say ba. Sound to sound correspondence. The point of teaching echoics too is so that we can encourage repeating language when we're using it as a prompt. Intraverbals is conversation, answering questions. It doesn't have formal similarity. Look for answering questions, responds to, fill in the blanks, what, when, where, as the response to the question. What's your name? Ready, set, go. Roses are red, violets are blue. Blue is the intraverbal. The answer to what's your name is the intraverbal. The person asking what's your name would be manding for information. Verbal behavior controlled by written text has point-to-point correspondence and is textual. So texting, when you read a text message, that is textual. Transcription is transcribing. Think of like transcribing music, transcribing a written text from what you hear, writing it down. So like a spelling test is how I remember it. So when a teacher calls out words and you're writing it down. Look for copies, write down, transcribes. Identifying multiple control in verbal behavior is looking for more than one controlling variable or more than one stimuli that evokes that response. Seeing a variety of pictures or real life animals and being able to label those would all have multiple controlling variables. Key words for multiple control is both as well as multiple. Look for scenarios with motivation and SD. Look for complex verbal situations as well. The formal similarity has the same form. It looks the same. Point-to-point correspondence is where the beginning, middle, and end mean the same thing and match. For example, textual and transcription have point-to-point correspondence because you're reading the exact word. It's just in a different form. Let's look at an example. A teacher writes the word apple on a whiteboard and asks a student to read it aloud. The student looks at the board and says apple. This verbal response demonstrates what? When we're dissecting this, it doesn't have the same form because one is vocal and one is written. We can take out formal. It is point-to-point correspondence because it means the exact same thing. And for extra, it is textual. I hope you enjoyed this brief overview of key terms on the exam for verbal operants and a quick explanation of them as well. Comment below if you have any questions about verbal operants or if you have any other ideas of examples. If you want more examples, I'm also happy to do a part 2 with more practice questions. Like and subscribe for weekly updates to these videos. Week 9 is next. Thanks for watching. See you next time.